There is a silence in the universe that no species understands, until they've heard it. It isn't the silence of empty space, or the cold hush of a dead moon. It's the silence that follows a human idea, when it survives extinction. Let me take you back. Back to the moment when Earth was no longer a planet, but a memory. They didn't call it a war. The Galactic Concord didn't even bother to fire weapons. They just turned off Earth, switched off our satellites, unlinked our communication lines, blotted us out of the archives. And just like that, 10 billion human voices fell silent. No explosions, no fire in the sky, just deletion. Humanity was erased, not by weapons, but by bureaucracy. A line in a treaty, a click in a control center, and they called it peace. The rest of the galaxy exhaled. The loud species, the problem species, had finally been handled. But they made one mistake. They forgot about her. She had no army, no family, no signal. She lived alone in a subglacial lab beneath Antarctica, one of the last offline zones on Earth. To the galaxy, she didn't exist. To herself, she barely did either. But she had questions. And that was the problem. Her name was Dr. Elina Marek. She wasn't a soldier. She wasn't a hero. She was a researcher of gravitational anomalies and subquantum resonance fields. They took her world. So she took their silence and studied it. Years passed. She had no food convoys, no data feeds. She scavenged broken tech from ruined orbital drops and the bones of ancient human satellites. She slept 2 hours a night. And every morning, she woke up to do one thing: understand why we were erased. Not how, she knew how. But why? What made humans unarchivable? And then she found something. It began as a pattern in background gravity fluctuations. Barely noticeable, unless you were insane or obsessed. She was both. The universe wasn't quiet. It whispered. It remembered. See, the Concorde had assumed humans were just loud animals with good aim. They didn't realize we were the only species that understood narrative. The only ones who didn't just observe the universe, but demanded that it made sense, that it had arcs, themes, climaxes. We are the only ones who write fiction. And Elina realized something impossible. The universe responds to expectation, not belief, not faith. Expectation. In her lab, she created a closed particle field. She focused her thoughts. I expect the particle to move left. It moved left, over and over. Not always, but more than chance. And the longer she expected it, the stronger the effect. She wasn't studying physics anymore. She was studying the narrative shape of reality. She built a chamber, lined it with hyper-reflective alloys, saturated it with thought-focusing loops. And then, she asked the universe a question. Not aloud, not with words, just an expectation. Tell me the story. She blacked out. When she awoke, the lights in her chamber were off. Her time logs were corrupted. But on the wall, scratched in metal, were 5 words: "You are not a mistake." From that moment on, she wasn't alone. Not really. Because every anomaly made sense. Every pattern now had rhythm. And every silence she had ever feared was now filled with potential. She called her discovery the core. Not a weapon. Not even a device. Just a resonance. A tuning fork for the shape of destiny. Meanwhile, the Concorde had forgotten about Earth. They moved on. Policed other species. Wrote boring textbooks about human aggression and unpredictability. They had no idea that under the ice, the last human was rewriting cause and effect. It took her 42 years. By the time she was done, her bones cracked when she breathed. Her skin had gone translucent from radiation. But her mind had become something else entirely. She sent one signal. Just one. Not to the Concorde. Not to their archives. She aimed it at the galactic center, toward the oldest black hole in the known universe. It wasn't a transmission. It was a suggestion. A story. The signal simply said, "Begin again." Within 2 galactic cycles, Stars began blinking incorrectly. Ships vanished from logs but continued to exist in real space. Entire species had dreams they couldn't explain, dreams of fire, of cold, of voices that sounded human. The Concorde tried to intervene. They dispatched a fleet to the ruined Earth. What they found was a crater of glass and ice. And in its center, a single white chair, frozen in time. And beside it, a black orb, pulsing softly. The orb didn't speak. It didn't attack. But over time, its silence grew heavier. Ambassadors began forgetting their own names. Admirals wept when they approached. Because inside that orb wasn't a weapon. It was a story so potent that it had become real. And that story was Elina. We are not what they thought we were. We are not apes with guns. We are not monsters of war. We are the ones who imagine monsters. We are the species who asks, what if? And then refuses to stop. They tried to archive us. They tried to silence us. But you cannot mute the author of a universe that listens. And so the Concorde fell. Not with screams, but with questions. Their ships now drift in patterns they cannot calculate. Their equations collapse at the edge of thought. Because she taught the universe something it had never known before, humans do not forget. And when the last voice falls silent, it will still echo, forever, in the shape of the stars.